Some of you have asked me to check out the CJP Nail Systems. I have a beautiful design idea in mind. I'm going to create this beautiful look. Let's get started. So CJP Nail Systems is a relatively new company, and many of you have asked me to check out the product. So I contacted Jenna Porch, the owner of the company, and she shipped me some of these beautiful acrylic colors. So I thought we would do a marble design in acrylic today. A few different techniques you can use to, actually you can really mess it up if you don't do it right. It's kind of hard to do, so we'll go through it together. But I just want to check out these colors. Now, Gemma has done something a little bit different. I noticed when I opened it up, she's got core powder written on, and she's got several of these that say core powder. So naturally, when I get two colors, usually the colors on the top or the bottom, and it says core powder, I obviously learned that it's not the name of it. Core powder is the powder that you use to sculpt and build. So this color, Vanilla Shine, when I talked to Gemma, she said, these are the colors that are pigmented colors. They're not meant to be strength for sculpting. You can sculpt over top of them, and that's where the core powders come in. So it's actually kind of smart. I kind of liked it. So today I'm going to work with my core powder, which I want is clear. That is my strength layer, the sculpting layer. So the other colors underneath will be the pigment colors. They're not meant for strength. That's why you need to put a core on top. So it's actually quite simple. I kind of like that idea. And the colors she has are actually quite pretty in the core colors. She's got several different pinks and one really soft white, and of course the crystal clear, which we'll work with today. So I'm going to work with a silver, which is called Angel Wings. She really fills them up. And this beautiful, oopsie, kind of a mint green, and a beautiful, this is gorgeous. Sometimes they're hard to open. They're really full, I must say. Look at that. The only thing I will say is make sure you don't mix the lids up because the name is not on the bottom. So the sapphire lid, make sure it goes back to there. Okay, so I'm gonna put them in order here. Angel Wings, the mint green, and the sapphire, so I know which ones I opened up first. Okay. Now my core powder, the clear, I'm gonna put that over here for a bit so I don't get any dustings of these colors while I'm working with them. I've already prepared my liquid, but I just wanted to show you this beautiful glass dish that Ugly Duckling has given to me. It has got a beautiful lid, and it just helps hold the liquid in there so it doesn't evaporate too much. But it's just beautiful. So I'm going to work with that today. So the brush I'll be working with, CJP sent me this brush. And I always take a look to see. Oh, it's big. I would say that's probably a 10. I usually work with an 8, but we're going to work with a 10 today. Okay, so I'm just going to get my brush nice and soaked in the monomer. Okay, now I'm just going to grab a form. Now I'm just going to form my index finger. My index fingers are rather pointy, and they have a very high hyponychium underneath, so they can be a bit of a pain to form. But they look pretty when they're done. I'm going to put these flaps. I never put these flaps down when I'm working with a client, but Caraman has said that they're in the way sometimes, so I'm going to press them down. Then I always check my form, just check down the barrel, make sure there's no gaps in there, check it sideways, make sure it's got a nice arch, and it's actually quite beautiful. Okay. Now marbleizing is kind of a little bit different, a little bit tricky. Every design you can lay down can be quite different than the previous one because it's very hard where the product is going to fall, where it's going to swirl. There's a bit of a technique to it. Now I'm working with 2 lighter colors and 1 darker color. And that is important and interesting because darker colors can be so condensed with pigment, you don't need that much of them. So some of you may know, if you're watching my videos, I'm changing my nails out every week. So I've left a thin layer of product on here just to protect them, so I'm not going down to the naked nail every single time. If you're doing a new set, that means somebody does not have anything on there at all, just the natural nail. You want to lay down a very, very thin layer of clear or a slight pink, whatever's your favorite base color, down first from the cuticle to the free edge. Because if you do this design or anything of acrylic colors, pigments, directly onto the natural nail plate, in 3 or 4 or 5 weeks when that person comes back, they may want to change the color out. If you have to file that down to the natural nail, it's going to probably hurt because you've got to get right down. It's a lot of friction on the natural nail plate. So if you do just a thin layer of a clear or a pink, whatever your favorite base is, you'll protect that and you can file down to that, take off all the product and do a whole new design without even affecting the natural nail at all. I see a lot of YouTube videos where people will just pile it right onto the natural nail, and it is easier to do and it doesn't make it as high, which is good, but it is painstaking. 4 weeks later, when that person wants to change the color, it's really not fun. And if a person has sensitive fingernails, then it's really not a good experience for them. And it's very trying on you as a nail technician because you don't want to hurt anybody. So I do have a thin layer on there because, again, I change my nails quite often for you guys when I'm doing different demos. On that note, we have a thin layer down there, and now I'm ready to put the color, the pigment, right on top of that. Now I find when you're doing different marbleizing techniques, if you play with it too much, you can make it look rather muddy. It doesn't look very good. You lose your color impact, especially if you're using contrasting colors like this. So sometimes if you get a design down that you really, really like, you've got little holes in there, as in patches on the natural nail that you're trying to cover. So I'm going to go in and do the cuticle first because it's hard to get that close to the cuticle when you're playing with the design aspect. So I am going to just put some near the cuticle, but just as you can see, I'm just feathering it out. I'm just trying to make it so the cuticle doesn't have these gaps when I do the design part on it. Maybe for the next one, I will actually leave the cuticle free so you'll know what I mean. Okay, we're gonna do 2 different colors on one dip with the brush. You do wanna get this a little bit more wet than you normally would, because sometimes it just spreads out a little bit better. I want it predominantly the green. I don't want too much of the dark, but you just need a little bit. See that? And that kind of looks like a lot. And when you place it down, you'll see how predominant the darker color does become part of the design. But you'll also see if you play with it too much, it can look a little muddy. I'm gonna go coffin. And you wanna kind of pat down because if you pull too much, you're gonna pull it right out. You can see that this here is getting a little bit, I don't want it quite that sharp. But I'm gonna make it kind of flat. I don't wanna really put an arch or anything in here because I wanna do that with my clear overlay, which is going to be the structure of this nail. I'm gonna go coffin. So you can see how much of the mint green I used comparison to the sapphire color, but yet there's a lot of sapphire in there, so you don't need much of it. Now I'm gonna bring in some of this beautiful glitter, and I'm gonna sort of put that I'm gonna really place that I got too much of that. I don't want that much. I'm just gonna place it in around there. I don't wanna cover that sapphire too much. Okay, now I'm gonna get some more, actually, I think I'll go a little bit of the dark and a lot of the green. And I'm going to shape up the nail a little bit down here. I'll maybe just pull my thread through there. See, it's a little bit wetter than I would normally work it, just so I can get that marble look. Don't forget that structure. It's got to come completely out from the side. I always have to check this side because I'm right-handed. I will sometimes miss that left side because it's kind of hard to see, especially when I'm catering to the camera. I get my head in there and then cameraman yells, hair.
I don't yell it.
Well, loud enough for me to hear
I
it.
go like this. Hair.
It's usually hair.
Hair.
No. Okay. Now, to balance it out a little, I think I need a little silver down this end. So just gonna put a little there. That's it. Okay. So I'm just forming up the next finger. And again, I'll pop these guys down.
I can really see your tan. Nice
Oh,
way
my
to do it.
fake tan?
It's not fake.
If it was a fake tan, I would definitely make sure I massage that in there a little bit easier. But it's a real tan.
I can assure everyone it is natural.
It's so funny, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
That's just my natural line. I like it. I want this one to look a little bit different. I'm going to go a little bit lighter, so I'm going to do less. So I'm not going to do the cuticle, and I'm going to show you what kind of things you can run into when you don't kind of do the cuticle first. Now that I said that, we probably won't run into that problem, but... Okay, so a little bit lighter I'm going to get, and just a little dip. See how quick I went in there? I'll try to get into the cuticle. Oh, not doing too bad. See, I'm really catering to the cuticle, so I'm actually smoothing the design out a bit more because I'm catering to the cuticle, and it doesn't look bad. But I didn't get quite as close as I'd like to. Maybe let's do the green with a little bit of the shimmer. See how that blends together.
This is looking really neat.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah. It's almost kind of a galaxy nail in it,
Yeah.
you know.
I was thinking the same. I think once you add the sparkles, it definitely gives it that feel, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
That's not bad with the glitter, eh?
I like it.
I kind of like it. Okay, now I'm going to do a little bit of the, let's try the blue, pardon me, the sapphire. We better do more of this with a little bit of the sapphire. I haven't tried that yet. See, if you have it wet enough, you can move it a little. Although that looks kind of stiff the way I move that. Oh, I don't want to play with that too much. I don't want to wreck that. I kind of like that. Now it's not quite coffin and solid at the end, so I'm going to add some green to make sure that I am definitely coffining this up at the end. Make sure there's enough product there. I don't want too much green to cover that design that I did. Now this is going to be a little bit longer. I'm just going to leave that green on the end there, but I'll be filing that quite a bit shorter, I think. See how you can really not get them to be, I mean, you need to really work it for them to be completely the same every single time. Okay, I'm just gonna look at it this way and make sure that I do have a square enough image there. I hate going back and adding more product if I miss something. To me, once I put all that stuff away, I really don't want to add anymore. But I will say, if I look on the side here, I can see a little gap of the product not getting to the side as far as color goes. That will bug me. So I'm going to go back and get it. And that's what I mean about sometimes filling in the cuticle first, because I don't really want to disrupt this design and make it look like it's a patch. So I'm going to stick it in here and see if I can not interfere with the design much at all by adding this, but I should add it because it's not there. It's bugging me. Because this is a pretty forgiving design, you really can't tell that I patched work that. I don't really like the way I've done it, but that's okay. I can live with it. It's kind of cool, huh?
Mm-hmm.
I like it. And here I can see a little bit of lack of product there. I don't know if that's gonna bite me in the butt, but I'm gonna put something in there because I do not want to be short on the side. Structure is so important. It should be at the front of every nail that we do. Structure is always the most important. Let me check my side. Yeah, I think I got it. Okay. So you can see I wanted to make that one a little bit lighter, but it still ended up with just as much of the sapphire in there. So this one, let's make it like an accent, and let's try to make it a little bit even lighter still. We'll just sort of focus it as an accent nail. So I'll just try to put very little sapphire in there. You can see just like almost like just have to pass by the sapphire because it just is so condensed. It's pretty though. So let's focus on trying to make it a little bit lighter, like I say, like an accent. So I'm not going to dip much. Let's try it without the sapphire first dip. I'm just going to cover that cuticle. I'm quite particular about cuticle work. I like it to be as close to the cuticle without touching as much as possible, because a person wants to walk away and get as much fill time, or they want to go as long as they can in between fills. So you don't want it to be away from the cuticle just as they leave out the door right after their appointment. So we want to get as close as we can. That's actually quite pretty. Okay, now let's go with some mint green, mostly mint green, with a little dab of the sparkle and just a touch. See what happens with this kind of a look. See if you play with it a little too much, it just kind of, let's just bring it up a little. Looks kind of funky in one little line. I'm fanning this right out because I want to do another bunch of color on top. I don't want it thick there. And I'm going to do green with a little bit more blue. Sort of try to bring that together a little bit more. Now let's put a bunch of liquid on there and see if we can sort of swirl it about. See what happens when you put the monomer on there? You can just sort of swirl it about. That's another reason why you wouldn't want that to be your final layer, because that's not an accurate liquid to powder ratio. You want the final layer to be the exact liquid to powder ratio for correct curing and durability for the nail. That's actually kind of pretty though. I was almost a little more accurate with the placement, wasn't I? Kind of pretty. I'm going to put a little bit of sparkle in there because I think that looked pretty. Get a little bit in there. Picking up all the sparkles, see that? I'm gonna put it right around here. Yeah, that's pretty. Okay. Even still, I used a lot more mint in there. The sapphire really is very dominant. It really took over. So it doesn't look too much different. In fact, it looks very good. It harmonizes really well with the rest. Okay, so we just have a little pinky to do. It's kind of hard when you got all these things on it. Often when I'm working, I will complete a nail, meaning clear cap it completely with the acrylic, and then I take the form off as I go. I also form as I go. I don't put all my forms on first. And the reason why I don't is because I find clients don't often sit as still as you would like. I mean, it's hard to sit still when you get your nails done. So I find when they're also placing their hand on the table, if you have formed all the forms can be put out of adjustment. So it's not a good idea to form them all up ahead of time. Form one as you go, and it gives your client a little more freedom, and then you don't have to readjust a form because it really is a pain having to take it off and do it again. Now these are so dry, I could take the forms off as we put the clear capping on because the shape is in its entirety. I haven't missed anything, so I could take them off, but let's just finish this up. Now this is a little tiny finger. If I took a big blob like that, if you can see how small this finger is, if I take it and put it on here, I'm not going to have much diversity in it if I just take a big blob on there. So I'm going to try to take littler amounts to make it look like it's, ratio size of design on this particularly small little finger. So I might take a little green and a little bit of this right near the cuticle and make sure the cuticle is nice and filled in and happy before I start any particular designing. Because I don't want to go back and do any patchwork in the cuticle. That's looking pretty good. See how I just took a tiny little piece there? Because I don't want to take a big blob and put it on there. I'm working in a smaller area, so we need to work like it's smaller. Everything needs to be a bit smaller, so we can keep the ratio-wise the same. I hope that makes sense. Okay, I'm really patchworking this little baby. Okay, let's get some glitter in there with maybe a little bit of the mint on this side and see how that would work. Pretty. I like that. Now you can see I've got a patch over there that I haven't filled. I got to fill it with green, not sapphire, because I think I would ruin that line of marble that's coming up there. I think I'm going to even just try to fill it with sparkles. Let's see how that looks. It's an awfully big ball. I like that sapphire in that corner, so I don't really want to ruin that. But I'm going to bring up this sparkles a little bit in here. That's pretty. That worked for me. Yep. Now I'm just going to check around my side, make sure I got it all. Yep. Looks pretty good. That looks pretty good. Okay. Now you can see this dirty paper towel that I've got. I'm going to turn that. Actually, I don't want to turn it over because I'm going to wreck my towel. So I'm going to throw that out. But I've got another. And the reason being is if you get a new one, you won't pick up any of the old product that's sitting on there accidentally and put it into the nail when you do the clear capping. We don't want to do that. So I'm going to take off. Actually, you don't have to take them off at this point. But I'm going to take this one off just to show you. It's totally intact. Now these colors I'm going to put away. And don't forget, don't mix the lids up because the name is on the lid. It's not on the bottom of the jar. Okay, so if you mix it up, you won't know what name goes to what color. Some of the colors are very similar, so you can get it wrong. And that only matters is when you're reordering, right? Or you're reusing the same color on a client. If you put the lid on wrong, it'd be very confusing. Okay, this brush is quite nice. I like the brush. Okay, so what I'm going to do is clean my brush out, make sure that there is no residue of any of that sapphire because that's a strong color and that could definitely leave a residue in my brush. So I want to make sure that's out of there because I want the clarity of this clear when it dries to be able to see this design beautifully. I don't want any fog of any previous color in my brush. So I'm going to get a nice blob, you might say, of my clear. I'm going to make sure that I take it all the way back to the cuticle because I want to make sure I encase this design completely to protect it and to keep it nice and strong. This color right now, or lack thereof, clear, is my core powder, which means it is the strong sculpting powder. This is what's going to hold this design together and keep it nice and strong. The colors we just put on the design, they're all pigmented colors. There's not much strength in those, if any. So I'm going to do that to all 4 nails. Okay, so clear capping is so important that it creates the even structure across the top and just fills in all the bumps and lumps that you may have created creating the design. It's sort of like the bottom of the ocean. When you look into the ocean, it's all flat, right? But underneath, the terrain is like this. So the acrylic, when you made the design, could be like this, but when you put the acrylic on top, the clear, it just kind of fills in all that and keeps a nice even surface. Okay, now we're going to sculpt these and create a beautiful shape. Okay, I love the e-file part, to be honest with you. It's sort of like, you know, when you're shaping it, it's sort of coming to life. You're really starting to see the final image that you're trying to create come to life. So I'm going to make a slight coffin. This one's a bit long. Now, like I said, this is going to be just a slight coffin, not an extreme coffin.
Would she like that as ballerina? Coffin. I know some viewers don't like the term coffin.
Well, I can understand why. I guess I always say coffin because it's shorter to say. And most people seem to refer to it as coffin as opposed to ballerina. I mean, there's a lot of ballerinas out there, but I think mostly I've heard coffin. I guess that's why I always refer to the coffin. It just seems to be the most used, but I kind of agree. The coffin doesn't sound near as nice as the ballerina.
No, I'd agree.
Okay. Get rid of all the dust. Now we're going to top coat. I always love doing the top coat on a design like this. Watch these come to life. It just brings out the dimensions beautifully. Although I do have to say, these would look still kind of neat matte. Falling in love with matte lately.
I'm sticking with glossy. I like
Caramel doesn't seem to like the matte.
Well, it has much more depth and
Yeah,
punch.
it truly does. Look at that. Look at the difference.
Yeah. The deep blue there is just striking.
Just really has come right out. When you put your gel top coat on, you do want to kind of massage it in a little. You don't want to just like wipe it on like polish. You can put it in quite a bit faster. But gel, you need to take your time a little because it almost like needs to settle as it goes. If you go too quickly, you can actually have quite a few gaps of holes if you were to really look at it closely. You want to make sure that it settles everywhere before you nuke it. Okay, nuke time. Ooh, these are super pretty. I'm super excited to see the pictures we get from this cameraman. Well, thank you, Gemma, for sending me your CJP Nail Systems acrylic powder. They're beautiful, and it really inspired me to do this beautiful collective marbleizing, almost like a geometric design, or even like space. Kind of looks like space, doesn't it, Caramel?
It does.
Well, thank you for joining me. I had so much fun. I hope you did too, and I'll see you guys in the next video.